Welcome to the work session of February 5th, 2025. Can I get a roll call, please, Angela?
Roll call, Haley,
Present.
Wakes,
Here.
Mulvaney Henry,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Gonzalez.
Here.
Brenneman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda if there are no corrections required to it?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Haley,
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez. Here. Aye. Brenneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Do we have any updates from any board members on anything?
I attended the Public Works and Safety Committee. They've asked me to serve on that for this year
Thank you.
on the 27th. And there were just 3 small agenda items and none of them really had anything to do with us. So
They won't.
I'm sure they won't, but
Well, thank you again for taking
sure.
appointment on that.
Can I ask who called you?
Well, Irene,
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay, great. Any other board updates that they want to provide? I've got a couple, but I'll wait till last.
I think if I did something else.
You did. You attended a meeting last week.
Oh, you can do it.
Okay.
I didn't put that in my notes. So.
Going back to one of the meetings we had with the UG, thank you. I don't remember when it was talking about how do we need to codify and get the fact that we're going to have these quarterly meetings, do we need to codify that, right? And so Commissioner Ramirez had drafted some language around that, and they subsequently set up a meeting to discuss it, and Mary had agreed to assist with that as well. And obviously I had agreed to Commissioner Ramirez's request to attend. So we did, and we talked through many things. I think there's some, Angie, I think you probably had the biggest to do out of that one, unfortunately. And so I think you were going to work on the language and pass it back around the committee, and we'll meet again potentially. But obviously we want to put that language before the full board and, you know, the full commission at some point to make sure that everybody's on the same page and get it approved by both bodies. So that was one. And then this week on Monday, I think on Friday, sometime after that meeting, whenever that was, they asked if I would attend a meeting Monday at 11 via Zoom with a variety of UG participants, including Angie. And I was the only BP participant other than Angie that was there, which was a hair strange, but whatever. So that was to revive the bill separation and pilot reduction discussions. And so that remains ongoing. Brett, I think they thought that you were, because you were on some of those early emails that you were going, I don't know why they didn't invite you to that meeting, but they're under the impression that you're going to attend at this point. And I think that came out of maybe the big joint
I'm
meeting.
happy to attend future meetings.
Thank you.
Notice would be
So
helpful.
is
Yeah, understood.
Commissioner Hill on both of those? Because she joined that first one late.
I guess so.
I
She present?
She was present at the meeting I attended this week. I was via Zoom. They were all in person. She attended the meeting very late last
Very
week
late.
at that meeting regarding
Yeah.
the language codification. But she had been ill.
Oh, okay, because I didn't remember seeing her name, but
Yeah. So a lot of that's going on. The agreement for the next meeting, and we've exchanged some information in the meantime, but the agreement for the next meeting is they wanted Jeremy and Abby to come in and talk to them sort of from a, just from a BPU perspective, because I think there was a disconnect in what the message was between the bodies last time, last go around that we tried this. And, but at any rate, that meeting's not set yet, but it's upcoming. So. I got more meetings, but here we are. Okay,
Okay.
Mr. General Manager, did you have anything for this session or did you want to reserve until the next session?
A couple of things for this session, just probably a little more appropriate for this audience. Some of you, don't forget, Saturday, 6 p.m. Sunfire House event. So if you're signed up for that, don't forget that that's the Saturday after our convention center. Chris also sent out an invitation for anybody that wants to attend the annual Black History and Scholarship event the 15th of this month. So it's at 11 o'clock at Memorial Hall. So if you're interested in that, get back with Chris. I think we have 4 seats available.
Chris, I'll take one,
4, oh, there you go.
please.
Did you get mine? No, I can't do that.
So sounds like you're down to 2 now, maybe, or?
I just one. Or do you?
I can't go.
Okay.
Okay, so we still should have 3 spots still.
However, I will.
Yes, yeah, welcome. No, okay. So David said he will not go, Rose. And then lastly, I sent an email out asking for some of your availability to come in and talk about some projects updates. So might corner a couple of you this evening after the meeting to see if you have some time to be able to make that happen. And that's all the comments I have for the work session.
Could I, Mr. President, ask, you sent out a thing about the ethics administrator. Is there, could we discuss that now? I know I didn't send any feedback to you because thought I could find out from the rest of the board what maybe they'd like to do about that.
Sure, there is a little bit of update. Probably should let Lee talk about it and Angie talk about it, but I know Lee had some meetings scheduled and I think he might have went over there already and met with Reed or tomorrow. So she'll be meeting with Reed tomorrow to talk about some things. Lee has kind of reviewed our ethics policy and it's in need of some updating. So I think she wants to do that as well, and I'll let her make the rest of the remarks.
Thank you, Jeremy. So I have gone through the ethics policy. I compared it to the UG because we are the administrative arm of the UG. So it's important to see what their process is. And it's essentially verbatim, to what the UG's ethics policy is. But the one thing that is different from ours to theirs is that the investigation process and the reporting process is different, and it has been somewhat followed. And so the purpose of the meeting tomorrow is to get together with Reed Partridge, who is with the UG. I never can remember his title. He's the legislative auditor, to kind of talk about the investigation process and to talk about the policy. We want to rewrite the policy. It's 20 years, almost 20 years old.
Please.
And it's hard to understand for people. It should be posted on our website, and for the community to see, and, for our, employees to be able to understand kind of what the expectations are. And so we're going to talk to him about that tomorrow, talk about the investigation process, the reporting process that they followed. Because I would like to, and he has to confirm this, but for us to rewrite what that process is. Normally you see in an ethics policy, you have a policy, it's principles based, doesn't change often. But you have a set of investigation procedures that you're supposed to follow. That's the governance structure for how, the intake of concerns and how those are investigated. And I think we can streamline that somewhat and make it a little bit more appropriate for our company, to follow, so that it's right now it's a little not disenfranchised. It's done by different groups. And so I think we want to streamline the process and bring it in. So we can structure the governance structure similar, but just to remove it from, the UG's process. The UG's process is appropriate for them. They get a number of inquiries every month, which would justify having a monthly meeting with an ethics commission and whatnot. And the volume that we get probably be something much smaller. And so to streamline the process, but have that, still have an oversight, over that the board, our board would be involved with is important too. So that's the purpose of tomorrow's meeting. So I think we'll have more.
And they've had a far better
Couple
luck
weeks.
keeping the Ethics Commission at full membership. And, and BPU's traditionally had a harder time getting people that would serve on that committee.
Mhm.
And the other difference between the UG and the BPU is the legislative auditor is appointed by the chief judge of the district court. So it's
Judge
not
Burns?
Judge Burns. And so it's not, it's not the elected officials don't appoint and the administrator doesn't appoint. It's removed. And then the legislative auditor over there in turn appoints the ethics administrator. And then I think the board goes ahead and appoints the committee. But over here, the board appoints the ethics administrator. Traditionally, they've always had the same one, but you're not required to.
But you said the board, I understand the general manager points we approve.
That's right, yeah.
Oh,
That's what
Sorry.
the policy
And also,
says.
I understand that there was a backlog of the investigations of reports that were been made.
I don't know if there's backlog here. I think there was a backlog at the UG.
Okay.
And they
And
were
they
having
were
monthly
sick.
meetings. And it's not unusual to have a backlog. But usually you prioritize the most serious ones and then you sometimes complaints are not really ethics violations too. So I don't think that there was
Okay, good.
but there could very well be reports that have not gotten to us because, of the ethics administrator and her circumstances last year. So that's one.
So that was the only issue.
Yeah.
The UG is having their ethics commission come in, I think, next month, but I can check on the date to present to the UG commission. And then they're also looking at changes to their policy.
And I mean, we could structure our ethics investigation, the process to be very transparent also. I think that was, if you look at kind of the structure, having kind of that outward focus, we could structure ours similarly. Our caseload probably would be something much smaller. And I mean, it's important to anonymize, cases and whatnot, but we could still have something that's reported, externally or posted on a website, let people know, number one, where they need to go to get their answers, their questions answered, but also, the caseload and,
Next time.
yeah, how they were investigated and whatnot. So we have an opportunity, to kind of modernize the process.
Good. That was just something that I hadn't really
Yeah,
Um, sent an email about or discussed, so.
we're gonna take, I guess, full advantage of the opportunity because of this bad situation to go ahead and update and improve all of that, and modernize it. Be sure we're checking all the boxes.
Sounds
Go
good.
where we're supposed to be doing, so. Any other board comments, questions before we? Mr. Haley.
Yeah, thank you, Manager Ash. So while we're looking at different structures or things that come through the pipeline in terms of, I know we talked about the ethics as well. They want to share with us better here than in the general. There are a couple of legislative changes for the structure that we have. One of them that got highlighted and made copies of to pass out. The Senate Bill 70 on page 14. Just for the good of the order, I'm sure that Ms. Lawson will enjoy knowing this is regarding the public bodies and when we go into executive session, that executive sessions, primarily the language, which I didn't promulgate, but I was excited to see. This basically will give a 5-minute leeway. We've been pretty apathetic about the exactitude as to coming back in at the time that it's coming out. And what this bill, which is coming through the process, which has come out 5 minutes grace, we need not say with exactness coming in and out of exec session. And I just, when it came to my attention, I just thought I would share that with the body, certainly first and foremost with our esteemed council. So that we may have.
This bill hadn't passed yet.
It's passed, it's, well, it's come out of Senate Judiciary. It will be going to the floor. It's just a small part of the bill. Generated out of Johnson County can be charged for copies of records, like a quarter or a power. There's some big dissent in terms of copying records as to how much a body could charge. So this was just a small part of it, but it's on a fast track because of the larger part of the bill. If it doesn't come to, we can't do it today. We can't go in and out of exec session today without that. But I think coming down the pike is that we'll have a little more leeway more times we come in and out. If the bill passed. And I will certainly be reporting to come to my attention if there
It's not gutted. It's not gutted.
isn't changed into something, right? Or they say 6 minutes instead of 5, yeah, anything, I'll certainly report that. That's one, and another quick point to earlier discussion. This was, I introduced this a judiciary bill, does speak to the 15%. This too is gonna have a hearing. Last time the UG, it will cap at 15%. The amount of charges that the UG could charge on the utility, 15% of consumption. The last time the bill went through and had a hearing, it was opposed by the UG. They came and said, you know, that whatever additional charges they have, this is, the question is whether this would include the pilot. Pilot, of course, is independent of consumption, So we are scheduled to have a hearing on this. So all the other ancillary UG charges could not exceed, were this to get a hearing, which it will, were this to pass, which it may or may not. But it's for the discussion that we're trying to hold down the amount that we collect for our parent company, for our parent, the UG, that are passed on to ratepayers and taxes passed on to consumers. So just to keep the board, as I'm sharing with the UG, I would hope that they wouldn't be as strenuous in their opposition as they were. It came out a couple of years. Happy to stand for any questions. Just wanted to share.
Couldn't get that any lower.
If there are any questions. Or later, it seems like whatever, Alan. Okay. Or, anyone else have anything for the bit of the order, any other on our structure, where we are?
The email that you sent out, Jeremy, regarding meeting with board members,
Yes.
and then said something about confidentiality. So we'll be still doing that.
We will, yes. There's a significant project underway that we need to make sure you're fully aware of, and we're bound by some NDAs, and so it kind of falls outside the lines of what the COMA states that we could have an executive session for. So we're having to break up into smaller groups that you will be able to update you on that. So that's what it.
I appreciate it.
Which reinforces then that you can't even talk outside of your group, because then you would violate the open
Right.
meetings. So I would caution that.
Thank you.
'Cause
So I think if nobody has any other general discussion, kind of our main task today is to get through and reset the roster of board committees and assignments. I think you have in your packets a copy of the assignments, and so I think it's important that we get those reset and you all can undertake the different committee meetings and things that you need to and address some of the items that are applicable to the committees as you see fit. So starting at the top, I guess, Finance Committee. You can see we're from the BPU team side. I'm not real fond of the work staff. I'm not a wizard. I have a staff. I've got a team. So from the BPU team side, as you all know, Lori's a short timer. So Andrew Ferris will be on her portion of that roster, and then you all have the pleasure of your side.
We really haven't met. We kind of decided with Lori that it was just like double duty. We'd meet upstairs with Lori on the committee and she'd go over financials and come downstairs and do the same thing. So we kind of thought that was unnecessary, but I would say like a skeleton committee should maybe stay in place.
As neat, as
As-
it says, as needed, if there's something
Something comes up,
that requires
yeah.
immediate attention.
Yeah.
So this is my first time serving this committee.
You probably served on it and didn't know it.
Okay, thank you. That's because I was told
I
that.
got one of those too, Steve.
You were on the committee that had
Never made. Never made.
But I will tell you why this might become more important is there has been some talk about the construct of the meeting and the agendas and what you might want on a consent agenda or not on a consent agenda. And so if you choose to go that route, then maybe, some level of frequency this committee should convene if you're not going to have that in the regular meeting. So that's why.
Yeah, I think keeping it as needed. And do you want to keep the same people or do you want people to volunteer? I missed that part.
Isn't this, no offense, Jeremy, it's the president's call.
Oh, okay.
You've been the president, Mary.
I know. Yeah, but I illegally met with everybody and didn't realize that because Angela told me after I
Really?
bought lunch for Tom or something, we discussed committees, then I moved on to the next person. That was a serial committee and I didn't do it right. Sorry. So don't ask me anything about
The
the
statute of limitations has expired.
Going to jail tonight.
As the president of the board is a busy individual this part of the year, you get it knocked out here, it helps him from having to have all those individual meetings.
Well, and thank you, really, Mr. Ash, because not only that, I'm new to this process. If I had all the time in the world, so it's all going to be a joint effort too, especially for committee assignments. It's going to be, if my prerogative means anything, what the decisions of those who want to Jerry, whatever you want, whichever one of these boards board members slots that you feel comfortable any member does. We're all just one happy family here. Let's just be on.
As, to move things along, I would entertain that the president might consider just keeping the same members in the same committees that previously, unless you have some glaring thing that you want to change.
We have a motion that all the committee assignments will remain as they are.
Does any board member not want to be on one of the committees they're on?
These are just for the BPU board committees. Now, there's a couple of things.
Oh, the
under
actual committees.
Other board committees that we need to discuss.
Gotcha, sorry.
You historically haven't voted on these, you just set them.
Sign off by the president.
So then if the president, if he would just say, yes, I'm gonna.
The whole appointment process, I think the motion is in order.
Well, I know, David, we discussed or talked about committees at one point, you brought that up. I don't know if it was in relationship to community engagement, I can't remember, but just because, you know, the three of us are on that committee, anybody can come to the community engagement. You know, we've kind of got it set up and got the programs going, so we'd be glad for any board member that wants to come. That would be fine.
That has, I know that I have, I know Stevie attended, I mean, we've attended those meetings sometimes that we have an interest. I know community engagement was one, policy review. And yeah, anybody can go to anything.
Yeah.
We have their
So
input weighed in.
same with any committee I serve on or chair. I welcome any board member to come.
However, officially, for those official members, if there's entertain a second to Tom to Schroneman's motion that we would just retain that.
And that, so you will be attending the UG Public Works Committee meeting?
Those are separate.
Those are separate.
In the board committees.
Other ones.
We're doing the ones above
Thank you.
that other board.
Thank you for that clarification, Shelley. Okay. Second,
And that's not to include the staff. This is just the.
Right.
Just the board.
For the board, assignments for the board, as I
I
understand.
second that motion.
Seconds moving. Is there any further discussion on assignments that we would each have on finance, BPU, economic development, audit, policy review, and or community engagement committee? Any further discussion? Seeing none. I guess is, we do a roll call on this? I mean,
I mean, if you're gonna do if you
well,
do it for vote, then I can do a roll call.
all right. Roll call, please.
Bailey, Waits,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Now, on the other board appointments, in, for the first one, they're UG/BPU joint meetings. Historically, the members that, from the BPU that have gone have been the president and the vice president. So that would be David and Rose. And I would be scratched off that.
Be in any more meeting.
So,
And
It's
then
the same line though, but that's too many, right?
And that was discussed at the meeting Rose and I were attending.
And then the intent that came out of the meeting was when we formalize it, we would list that for the BPU, it would be those two positions or their designee.
or they're doing.
And that it would take one, you'd have to have one BPU elected member for there to be a quorum in case there was any questions about what constitutes a quorum for the cases.
Been have they met the joint meeting?
They used to meet quarterly, but they haven't met since
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah, it used to be consistently.
I mean, when Holland was mayor, we met quarterly. And I think we've had one meeting since then.
Quarterly with Albie until COVID.
We had one with Garner.
Yeah.
So when that was happening, it was a quarterly meeting. It was the county administrator and the EPU general manager would set the agenda with input of, you know, the president, vice president, whoever was there, the member at large. A couple of the commissioners were there. Angie was there. And they had a formal agenda. They met quarterly. They kept notes. It went out. The agenda was shared and put together as agreed upon.
Yeah.
I don't know what the goal of the newer.
That'll be the process going forward.
Yeah.
That was really
I had his,
evident.
so.
You did. Mhm.
I did add that we would sometimes have someone there if we were working on a special project that they needed to know, like might be Steve Green from water or something like that, that depended on the agenda.
Staff, the general manager would bring whatever staff was
Exactly.
appropriate.
Well, in all these meetings I've been having, I just want all the staff to know that I've been volunteering your time over there all day.
Well, to that point, so the mayor has set up a recurring meeting, I think, with he and I and David Johnston. I know, you know, that was happening prior to me being in here. If I should say it was a regularly scheduled meeting. I don't know how much of the time it was successful that they actually convened. But the first one is next Tuesday, and he has, the mayor has extended that invite to some of the commissioners. And it was, when I inquired, it was, oh, well, I just, we just want them to meet you and this, that, and the other. And I said, well, okay, well, if we're gonna do that, I'd probably like, president, vice president, whoever, we need some board representation there. Just in the event it maybe goes further than a meet and greet kind of thing. So
What time of day do they have?
2:00 next Tuesday. So
I mean, we got day jobs, man. I mean, I know this is a day job.
I am booked that day as well. So,
Yeah.
I think it would be good to have, one or two go. Yeah, for sure. So,
Would anyone be available?
Those that are
for
fully
next
retired at
2:00?
2:00 on Tuesday.
I'm not sure.
That's telling her, Mary. That's telling her, Mary.
Are you
He said, wait a minute.
Are you available, Brad?
Free.
No.
I can make myself available. That's fair. Send Mary.
What's the date?
Send Mary in
The
time.
11th.
Send the retired people.
If we got desperate.
Being recorded, I won't say what I should say about my boss. So I can't.
I could probably do that.
I could too.
Those are our designees.
so,
Do you want both of us or do you want
Yeah.
okay, yep,
one of us?
I will.
I designate Tom as my stand-in.
And I designate Mary as
Thank you
I'll represent it.
so much.
Chris,
You can.
we forward
No,
them?
no. You guys are there. I'm good.
So sorry. So sorry.
So Chris will forward you the invite. It's there, February 11th at 2 p.m. So,
Oh, it's in
Did
person.
that invite just come out to you?
It's not on Zoom. It's in person.
Yeah, they want to meet him.
I could,
no, I got it. Maybe
That's not.
3 weeks ago or something.
That's the invite. That's what.
3 weeks, 2 weeks.
How many commissioners are gonna be there?
yeah, do you know which ones?
Yeah,
I know who's on the invite.
Interesting.
Tom and Melissa. Tom Burrows.
At larges.
The two at large.
yeah, it should be our officers, but
And the mayor. And.
Mayor and county administrator, yep. And are you going?
I don't have an invite.
No.
Oh,
You guys can talk about whatever you want.
Yes.
well, but at least one of our at-larges will be there.
you what?
At least one of our at-larges will be there. And Tom's district goes west to east, literally all the way through. You're good.
It's pretty large.
Jeremy on fifth floor or?
Chris will forward it to you.
Oh, okay.
On the ninth
Okay.
floor
It's,
in
I
the
think
mayor's
it's-
conference room.
Oh, I don't know where that is really. Seriously.
Ninth floor conference room, yeah.
If you go up to 9, Shonda can help you once
Okay.
she'll know where you're supposed to be.
Oh, maybe I have been there.
They gotta let you up on 9. I mean, I don't know.
No, mine does. Oh, because I work for you. I work for you.
My past,
No, you got top level security clearance.
yeah, security, yeah.
Yeah, ours.
I gotta stick with you.
If you go to the security, I don't, Jeremy arranged for me when I was on the committee.
Hey, actually, I can meet you guys.
I've got a special UG
Contractor ID.
Oh,
badge,
they
something
aren't.
where I lets me, where I can go in and go around.
I just go in the front door and go through security.
Yeah,
That's what I always do.
my elevator doesn't go all the way to the top floor.
I've heard that.
Well,
Left it there.
getting through the committee assignments quicker than I anticipated, so President, what you'd like to use the rest of the time for?
Well, on the
other
standing
thing-
committee though, yeah, Tom's
Yeah.
not on that. That's Mary now, right?
The unit, standing committee, public works would be Mary.
Awesome.
That's appointed by the mayor.
Awesome.
I think it was really appointed by Irene.
Wouldn't that sweet? Wouldn't that sweet?
She also told me that none of y'all would do it, so I had
Well,
to, I had to.
Yeah, because I was holding.
She was supposed to call me back and she never did.
On the community engagement committee, we meet quarterly. We have our schedule out. would the rest of the board like to see what that schedule is for this year? I mean,
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
okay, so in case you guys want to come.
Yeah.
The first one is February 17th. I know that, which is President's Day. It is a UG holiday, it is not a BPU holiday. So, I mean, if that affects anybody,
Yeah, I'll maybe get back from fishing by the time.
If you all choose to attend, please let us know so we can notice the meeting.
Which means,
I think we notice it anyway.
We probably just need to add the verbiage that the quorum of the board may or may not be, or may be present.
I would just add that to the permanent
Yeah.
notices.
I'll work with you.
First, here's the email that you sent out that has the agenda. for the meeting.
Gosh, I wish Brett, or I wish Rob didn't have everything like right on it all the time. There they are. There's the dates.
we love Rob for that. We love Rob for
May
that.
19th is a Monday, isn't it?
That's what
How would you know that?
Because I'm doing a wedding on the 17th in Texas.
I do that.
That's Saturday.
I hear you, but I'm in Texas, so,
I had to check them,
It's Monday.
well, they're all Mondays, so.
make sure it wasn't graduation. I've got a graduation.
Well, maybe I just can't beat that one and one of you guys has to do it.
Are you gonna do the customer service?
Mary's really good at. Mary's really good.
Policy review committee on which you chair as well.
Experience.
Do they have any more? I mean, love the great work that you just did. Are they? scheduled?
Thank you, same.
Scheduled, yes.
We don't have anything scheduled, but we probably do need to schedule one. We've got a couple of things. One thing we had to put aside before we went into the customer service, the labor of love that is customer service policies. We had one thing we were gonna do that I can't remember if it was on purchasing, is that what it was? Because we did get through the HR one, right? So it's purchasing, and then we had some board policy things we wanted to talk about as well. So, because we had just redone that policy, but there's been a couple of things that have come up since then that we wanted to discuss. So if we're all still on the committee, hey, guys. We need to get one of those on the calendar sometime soon. Feel free to send your availability to Angie. How about that? Say, send it to me. Just copy her on the, I mean,
Yeah.
we're three of us, it's fine.
Right, if it.
Or copy those.
It is simply about meeting scheduling. There has never been any pushback on that for a coma violation, because you have to schedule to get to a meeting, so
You do have to do that.
have to, for it to be effective.
So-
Who would you appoint? I mean, I see Janetta's on that too. I'm curious who might be your.
Sign it.
Abby,
Abby will be.
yeah. Anywhere you see Lori, it'll be Andrew.
Okay.
Anywhere you see Janetta, it'll be Abby. And then I'm
Sometimes we need Jerry.
probably,
Glad you're in the room, Jerry, because I'm confident we're going to revisit some sort of a technology policy this
yeah,
year.
and we can do that kind of the ATOL as needed,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, kind of like economic development, if we're talking about something specific to electric, we may have Darren there, we may have Steve there, so just kind of ad hoc there. The other substantive change, I think, is probably on the BPU team side, on the community engagement committee. I think that is gonna fall with Amber, but I talked to her about that. And her boss.
Amber, are you guys willing to? There we go. You guys were a good team last time we had you.
And the policies are based on what policies are going to the committee,
Correct,
and not always Abby in there, but it's just.
correct, yeah.
And as to the policy review committee, the legal department has spent a considerable amount of time, as have most legal departments, going through executive orders and just kind of waiting to see how things shake out, but we will probably have some policy recommendations for the committee based on how, you know, what is held.
Do we have home rule or not? Because I'd like,
Not on those,
not on those, we don't have home rule.
not, well, the problem,
Probably want to discriminate against people we don't have.
the problem is on a lot of that is not if you want any grant funding.
We don't get any anyway.
Get some, you know, like the water, it would even be like perhaps
Isn't there a pause on all the grant funding too?
that
We're not gonna get any anyway.
pause was pause, but even like the low interest or the no interest water loans, if those, I don't know if those originate from the feds, then those could be impacted as well.
I understand.
So you're just
I understand.
testing all of it and trying to keep up on what's happening on a daily basis, but I may have suggestions for the policy review committee based on.
Lawyers Full Employment Act is what's coming out of DC.
Absolutely, yes.
There've been executive order to extend the term president. 4 years since he was disenfranchised out of 4.
Okay, all right, anytime where we see Lori, we put in. And will you guys, resend this out, like correct it and?
We will, yes, Chris will update it. We'll send it out. And we'll post it. We've developed a Teams channel for our chief team, we're calling.
Yeah, you have.
That there's a calendar on there. There's some other things on there. We'll make sure it's all on there and the right BPU teams at the right meeting when they're supposed to be.
Cool, thank you.
Should we ask while we're in this vein, whether or not Mary looked in any meetings for the finance or audit committees, whether Tom has looked at a meeting date for economic development, any of those?
Generally, economic development, when we receive an application, then we will convene and go over that application.
Okay. That's, all right, so.
And I think that I'd say the same for the finance committee if we, as we discussed earlier, as needed.
Okay.
So when you ask one other one, audit, I usually leave that up to, didn't we put out, are we still using Reuben Brown?
This year we are, this year.
This year we are, okay.
So, you know, I mean, I'll talk to Jeremy about it, but we'll want to periodically get together with the audit committee to go through the audit.
Right, right. That was not really a frequent
Yeah.
meeting, and they would usually come to one of our meetings and present to everybody.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah, that would be good.
This year.
So the only other thing I know, Mr. President, unless you have some other use of the time, there was talk about consent agenda, some of those things. I don't know if you want to spend a few minutes talking through any of that or.
Floor is open.
I'm the one who brought it up, so should I be the one having the floor?
Financial reports.
Regarding what?
Is this regarding the financial reports?
It's regarding a lot of things that could probably be on the consent agenda,
Okay.
where they have previous, like, hey, we're gonna nominate Jeremy to go to Western Fuels or whoever it is to go to Western, I mean, stuff like that. I don't think there needs to be a whole presentation up at the podium for. I mean, love y'all going to Western Fuels, but
Those usually have a resolution, though.
super great. We can, Angie, we can adopt a resolution by consent, can we not?
You can.
We can do that? Oh, okay.
If, I would suggest if you have a policy saying that you can.
Which is why the policy committee needs to meet, because we need to bring suggestions back to, I mean, that's what all I was suggesting was, let's not all decide to go to, like, we need to put some thought into this, what would or would not be eligible for consent agenda, you know, as in other meetings, and bring it back to the full board to make sure the full board understands and buys into whatever the policy would be. I mean, that's all I was thinking.
I'm okay with that. If you can do the resolution thing, it's fine.
You would have to have some written document to approve, so.
Resolutions, okay.
But there's, you know, I can brainstorm several items.
So there's other items like the minutes.
Right.
Mhm.
Or travel, if you had like a written travel request, you could put it in there.
So there's a number of things that could add some efficiency to your meeting. You'd still be getting all the information. It just would be done so in the consent format.
And then if anyone had any specific questions about any one of them, they could just ask for an item to be pulled from.
Yeah, it could always be.
Consent agenda and
Um,
the rest would move on and we'd have longer discussion on that one.
We have a chance to enumerate what those are. So we talked about them around here, but you know, I certainly want to know what, everything we're talking about. We know finance, talk about well, we've talked about a couple of things, so.
Well, I think that would have to be enumerated in the policy as to what would be eligible for it.
It would be.
Mhm.
So maybe in the meantime, if there are things you think ought to be on that.
Yeah.
Share those with the policy committee and then otherwise.
Or share them in the policy. committee.
Okay.
In the policy.
Send them to Angie. She'll get them to the policy committee.
Sounds good.
Great.
Would that be the only change?
No,
You could-
no, there's some other changes that could probably occur.
There's items on your regular agenda that were put there by former board members. Maybe you want to discuss those things being there. Maybe you want to discuss meeting frequencies. I mean, there's a number of things you could choose to change.
I would like to discuss, and I don't know how to change this and how to make it correct, but we added the spot on the agenda for people who had questions about presentations. And it just seems that the questions are never about the presentation.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And
I don't know how to,
the way I've thought about that, I thought about that too. And the way that they did it over at the UG was, you know, somebody would make at one of those committees that we're set on, somebody would make, whether it be Public Works, would make their presentation. Then they'd ask the people there, you got any questions, anything and then they'd ask the audience if there's anybody there that had anything they wanted to say, say about that specific item that, and they didn't just wait until the end and then open it back up again to where they could just come out and talk about anything and everything that they wanted to. It was at the end of each agenda item, they would ask the committee members if they had any questions or whatever. And then they'd ask the public if they had anything to talk about.
yeah, I think it stemmed from, or as I recall, when we had a large group and there was people who didn't understand something that was presented, then we'd have all this sidebar conversation, and it was not productive, and and that's.
That and they'd already spoke at the first and during the public comments, and then we'd have whatever we presented, and then we'd tell them, no, your public comments are over with, you can't talk, and that
Right.
caused some.
Right, but I want to direct it back to what it was set out to be. Do you have a question about the presentation?
Or a comment about the
Well, and maybe we just need to revisit
Conversation.
the two sets of public comment sessions we have at the meeting. And maybe since we've experienced now for a little bit, having both sets
Mhm.
and come back to the full board with, some recommendations. But obviously would love to know what your guys' input is
It just,
going into that thought process.
it just seems to me that was like, oh, maybe I got in the meeting late and I missed the board one, so I'm gonna ask my questions now. I feel like, I'd be happy if they were related to anything that we presented with a question, but.
But I think that, getting back to the point, and Angie has drilled this home many, many times, there's a difference between a question and a comment, right? And there are lots of ways to reach BPU staff members that probably have answers to questions that the board typically does not have, not that we could not get, but we're going to go to the same staff members a member of the public would go to. And opening it up into a question answer session is probably not the best way to handle those. I understand customers have questions. I try to plaster my BPU email over like everything, right? And still don't get any emails. So, because I'm happy to facilitate a discussion with staff if that's what's necessary. But having this more as stressing that these are comments. This isn't a question, period, right? But I don't know. I understand, Angie, what
I'm just
up to.
hoping we could either redirect the focus of the purpose of that or put everything at the beginning. I don't know.
Consolidation, I was thinking about having 1, 2, but would it be at the end then? I mean, instead of at the beginning, so if their comment was about something that occurred during the meeting or some general public
But I
comment.
cannot really recall anything.
And I think the reason they sit the first is so they don't want to sit through the whole
Right.
meeting. They want to
See it.
come in and make their gripe and then go.
But in the time that we were having a large group coming and, yeah, the sidebar conversations were detracting from the meeting. And so that's
Well, we added rules.
why we added that. And it didn't seem to, I mean, it quieted during the meeting, but it didn't seem to solve what we thought we were solving. That's just my opinion.
Well, and one of the things, and Mr. General Manager, this is, I think, really for you, and probably Amber. You know, you guys are willing, you know, to meet with and take questions from constituents and, you know, our customers. And I think maybe just reiterating that, I know that there's like a part in, you know, the opening part of the meeting where we say you can call or email the BPU anytime, but, you know, and maybe just reinforce the fact that, you know, we've got people here that are happy to, you know, try to help you get and answer your question. I mean, I understand some people are really specific and that's probably directed more, you know, in customer service under Abby's team, but there's other stuff, right? That, you know, why about financials or whatever. It's like, you know, why do you, what'd you do with the $22 million you transferred last month? You know, and maybe there's just some easy ways we could address that, but also just in a, I guess, a less confrontational manner, which I know you both are very skilled at. So go ahead and keep adding to your plates.
We certainly don't mind answering questions, meeting with people. We're here Monday through Friday. There is almost at every meeting, one of our subject matter experts that do a fantastic job of what they do for us, but also they have no problem answering questions and walking through people's issues, because frankly, none of us are going to know all of the answers all of the time, right? So it's important that we get, you know, if somebody has a deep-rooted finance question, then maybe they need to talk to Warrior Andrews. They don't need to talk to me, or they don't need to talk to the board president. If somebody has a specific customer service question, I can sure talk to them about the process, but the actual expert would be Abby, and so she can help them through that. So we're happy to get the right people hooked up with the right team member to get the correct answer to them the first time.
Right.
Appreciate
I'd
it.
just like to say the people that help me constantly back there, Chris and Kaylee, I always get frantic calls on the weekend, you know, so I'm like waiting to dial into them on Monday morning, like help. So, yeah, who else do you guys for all your help?
So are we gonna, is the policy committee gonna do a review of the?
I think a couple of the items that we talked about, and I wrote them down.
Okay.
So if we just decide on what availability looks like with, you know, the staff, the team, pardon me, the team, the BPU internal team,
This takes,
then we'll set a date. We'll have a policy committee meeting and talk about, I mean, at least get through one or two of these things.
Anything else?
No, you're retired.
Got a couple minutes, I guess.
A couple minutes, we need to be in there.
That's right.
So I would make a motion to adjourn the work session.
Rose, I second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Sorry.
I consent.
Roll call, Haley,
Aye.
Wiggs,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
I.
Redden.
Aye.
That motion carries. This session is adjourned.